Hello.
Oh, I'm exhausted.
Hi, Kelly. Of course, Kelly is here because Mark is somewhere probably flying across. In fact, he doesn't need a plane. He's flying across the Atlantic, floating on a cloud, as I imagine anybody who was actually there in Augusta must still be pinching themselves that they were for that historic moment. But did you feel, Kelly, and I know you were watching in a very strange way.
Yes. But that makes it sound like I lead some kind of secret life. I was just on a train.
But you did put the picture of your view on our WhatsApp group.
I was watching someone else's iPad between two seats.
Voyeuring.
I couldn't get a good enough reception on mine, so I was trying to watch someone else's. And then the man next to me had it on his phone, but that was too small to see. So I was trying to watch that in the reflection of the window. So I had a patchy...
Yeah.
I had a patchy front nine, I'll be honest with you, Gabby. But
well,
I turned it
like
around.
The great man himself.
Turned it around in the back nine.
But it was just, I felt like there was this, the world, was watching together almost, It felt like there were so many people were so invested in this. Nobody was going to go to bed until this was done and dusted. Thankfully, we have somebody who is on the ground. Let's hear from Mark.
Well, good morning, big sister sports agent and little sister sports agent, little brother sports agent here. The reason my voice is really croaky, by the way, is that I think I've got a cold. I haven't been out partying all night. I think that was the most astonishing sporting event I've been at, that I've watched, that I've covered. I think it had everything. I had tears in my eyes at the end. I had tears in my eyes as he went to 18 after missing the putt on the 18th green, knowing he was going to a playoff, and he stopped and he gave his daughter Poppy a kiss and hugged his wife. I had tears when him and Justin Rose shook hands on the 18th. Two massive figures in European golf over so many years, going head to head for their first green jackets, let alone the Grand Slam that was on Rory's shoulders. And when they embraced after McIlroy had sunk the winning putt, and McIlroy looked at Justin Rose with tears in his eyes and just said, "Oh, Rosie," and then hugged him. They were both just class acts. We did a show, didn't we, Gabby, after he'd blown the US Open, and we had Colin Montgomery on, and we tried to work out why sometimes individual sports people mean so much to us. And I think yesterday meant so much to everybody who was invested in it, because it meant so much to Rory McIlroy, and it meant so much to his parents and to his friends. And I think that's why we all invested. It's as dramatic a sporting event as you could wish for. And maybe you two would like to hear this. Maybe everybody listening would like to hear this, but I'm not sure it's ever going to get better than that, really, in sport. So maybe it's time to retire. See you soon.
I wasn't sure if he meant him or Rory.
Yeah, I mean, if he means him, that's a lot more Saturday nights for you and I over the next few years.
Picking up a lot of shifts.
Let him get home, have some sleep, and he'll be back at it. But he really summed up the emotion of being invested in somebody, and that's what it was, wasn't it? We've all been there for him for so long.
Even my mum said that she stayed up and watched it, and she's not a particular golf fan, but she said, "I feel like I've known him since he was a boy." Now that you do know you don't know him, I feel invested, and she was fully emotionally involved in the whole thing, and that's great sport, isn't it? That's part of great sport. Yes, there's excellence, but so many, and badminton are changing their point scoring system at the moment, trying to get people to be more interested. And you think, stop messing about. Give me a great person with a great story that I'm emotionally invested in.
I need to care, whatever it is. And I'm sure you experience this a lot when you're presenting a football match. You go in sometimes thinking, I have nothing in this, no dog in the fight here. I don't care about these two teams. Something happens where somebody you've interviewed, or suddenly you realise you are championing somebody, and there's a reason why you want them to win. And that's what sport's about, isn't it? You have to get the neutrals invested, because otherwise, what do you have, really?
Yeah.
It's no soul, is there?
Because sport without being vested in the people is just some balls flying around. It doesn't really matter. It only matters because of the value we place on it, and we only place that value on it because of the people.
The hugs he was giving out at the end, and to his fellow players who were there. Obviously, Shane Lowry was at the edge there, and Mark mentioned Justin Rose, who was just magnificent.
Yes.
I thought he was incredible. And his wife Kate got a big hug as well. And you could see what this means to his fellow professionals was just absolutely beautiful. And let's just say as well, so many good European performances in that top 10, weren't there? Which bodes very well in a Ryder Cup year. Maybe we'll get onto that another time. But I think one of the interesting things, which we all noted on our WhatsApp group last night, didn't we, on the Sports Agents WhatsApp group, was the no phones rule there, because they're very traditional, means that every time the scoreboard changes, there are these kind of oohs and ahs, because people around the course, of course, don't know what's going on. And that old school kind of environment, I just loved it. I really bought into that.
Yeah, we've got various people on the team who don't remember CFAX, so they've got no experience of that kind of thing.
You said this reminds me of, I tell a story about how my brother Daniel used to watch Wales games when my dad was managing them on CFAX, because we couldn't get Wales Faroe Islands on the telly.
Yes.
And he'd just run out in the hall and go, "Rush, 1-0!" and then run back in. And that was how we watched Sport Kids back in the 80s.
Page 3 of 7.
But it was just beautiful for so many reasons, and we'll get into those, I'm sure, with our various guests today.
The other thing as well to note about the no phones rule and why it's so brilliant is at those crucial moments, everybody was watching, everybody was fully focused. Nobody was watching it through their phones or holding it up to put on social media later on.
Yes.
Which just meant, one, the shots looked great on TV, but two, they were invested again.
Yeah.
It was another reason for them to be emotionally
They always
connected.
say, don't they? I mean, we've heard it on this podcast, but I've heard it before, that Augusta and Wimbledon are the two that stand above the rest in terms of big sporting entities, almost. That, you know, beyond, they transcend their sports. I wonder if Wimbledon's thinking, we should ban phones.
Yeah, they should.
There you go. That's our contribution to the evolution of a sport. Right, Liverpool, you are Mrs. Liverpool. So the weekend, obviously, they took another step towards this title, which has been a fait accompli for a couple of months.
Just.
But yeah,
Only
had to rely on Virgil, which is timely given what's gone on last week with obviously Mo Salah now committing his future. Does that seal it for Virgil now? We're going to get that announcement any day?
I don't know. He was quite coy afterwards, but he was like, well, I know what's going to happen, but at the same time, I don't know, and we'll find out what happens this week. It was all very cryptic. Yeah. But there was a big rumour doing the rounds because Salah announced his contract extension on the 11th of the 4th. His shirt number is 11. Virgil van Dijk's shirt number is number 4. So there was a sense that there was going to be a joint announcement and that social media had got this absolutely right and there was going to be a big connection. That isn't what happened, as
Clearly,
we know.
Yeah.
Virgil van Dijk said we'll know more this week, but it sounded as promising as a non-committal statement can sound.
And I like the noise that's coming about why Mo Salah in the end wanted to commit and rather than take $1 billion payday from Saudi Arabia, to do with his ambitions to win a Ballon d'Or. We've known that for a while, to win more Champions Leagues, to win more here and really cement his place as one of the very, very top players the Premier League has ever seen.
Yeah, $500 million. It's not
easy
not a
to
small
turn
amount
down.
to turn down if that's absolutely the figure. And also, of course, to be playing in the Arabic world, and that he is such a huge figure and such a huge icon. If you look even on Instagram, I think Liverpool have 46 million followers and he's got 64 million pounds. And he's got 64 million followers. So there's a big Mo Salah fan club that is invested in the club because of
and that reason was
Salah.
being given as one of the reasons he might play in Saudi Arabia, because he wants to be the biggest footballer in the Arab world. He is already, and him playing
but
outside
ahead of the Saudi
that,
World Cup as well, and that,
even playing outside of that region, if you like, makes him bigger, doesn't it?
But I think
Takes him to a bigger
I
audience?
don't know if it's from a sense of wanting to give back and to help to bring attention to football in the area
so many
and
of these
to
big
help to
players
develop
who've
young
gone
players.
there.
And
What do we hear about naming, Ronaldo? What do we hear next? We never hear about them, do we?
we don't hear about him, but they hear about him there, and then it raises interest in the region, and maybe that's something that Mohamed Salah is looking at in terms of his legacy as a person, not just as a footballer.
He also has said that his wife and daughters just love living in Liverpool.
Yeah,
which
and
is
they're
great.
happy.
Yeah.
They're happy, and there's that gorgeous footage that you can look up on social media of his daughter going in after a game, and she went onto the pitch and scored a goal at the Kop end, and there were still some fans back, and they cheered her on, and he was just watching her from the tunnel, sort of giggling away, and his wife went over to grab her, and I think they just feel really part of the of the club, and they're always there. You know, his wife and his children are always at the game. Lovely kids.
Explained the machinations of it yesterday, didn't you, when you were on Sky, that they could win it next weekend, but that would involve Arsenal.
Arsenal have to lose to Ipswich. Liverpool would have to beat Leicester. Then, if it goes past there, potentially Arsenal have got a game against Crystal Palace in midweek. If they drop points, it could be one there.
Oh, without them playing.
Without them playing,
they
which
don't
is
want
what
to do
happened
that. That
last time.
Yeah.
When Chelsea beat Manchester City, and then it goes to the next weekend when it will be in Liverpool's own hands at home to Tottenham.
That's kind of when you want to do it, isn't it? In front of your home crowd, after the disappointment of winning it in COVID, or let's not say disappointment, the experience of winning it in COVID is clearly less than it would be in your own stadium at home with your fans who've been there with you through the whole.
If they have
journey.
to win it when they're not at Anfield, they'll just have to win it again when they are at Anfield.
Okay, right. Shall we get back onto Rory? Because I think both of us have been very excited all day about the prospect of spending an hour waxing lyrical. Don't worry, we'll edit the podcast for you. You won't hear us waxing lyrical for an hour. But that's what we're about to do. You can catch up with all episodes of The Sports Agents on Global Player or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe or follow. And don't forget to rate and review. And next up, we're going to dissect how Rory McIlroy went from nearly man to great with broadcaster and co-host of the Chipping Forecast podcast, Andrew Cotter. I'm delighted to say that Andrew Cotter, broadcaster and co-host of the Chipping Forecast podcast, has joined us to talk all things McIlroy, history and the Masters. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you.
You would ordinarily be on a plane probably on this particular day of the year because in 22
all right.
22 Masters in 24 years, you've only missed 2. And this was one of them.
This was one of them. You know, I love the boat race. God bless the boat race. But it doesn't clash very often. And in the past, when the BBC covered the Masters live, it would have taken priority, so I would have been out there. But yeah, well, I mean, I was about to say I don't mind, but I really, really, really do mind. So I really minded a great deal when I was sitting there watching it last night. I was happy for everyone who's there. Obviously, well done them. But it was extraordinary television anyway. However you ingested it, it was fun. It was amazing, and it was golf cutting through, going beyond the quite narrow confines of golf fans, really, and making news websites. And I've done various interviews today. Obviously, you're the best one, but it goes beyond golf and goes a little bit beyond sport. And golf needs that at the moment, really.
Personal disappointment aside, Chappers was saying earlier he thinks that might have been the greatest sports moment he ever witnessed, and it is, as you said, it's going to be really difficult to cover this without a sour undertone to the whole proceedings.
Let's just put the caveat there. It's not all about you.
It's all turned rather sour.
But you're right. It's not just because of the fact that it was a win at the Masters, which is always a huge occasion. It's the years of not quite getting there for Rory McIlroy. It's the years of not even winning a major over that time for Rory McIlroy to complete that Grand Slam. And as you said, the fact that people who don't even follow golf were gripped by it.
Yeah, and part of that is due to the way that McIlroy plays the game. He is so talented. He will hit shots that make you, even if you don't know golf, you'll go, I know that's pretty good. But also because of the way he plays the game, he will make mistakes because he's just that kind of player. And that's not really meant as a criticism. The greatest attractions in golf in the past were players like Seve. And McIlroy's a more straight down the middle player than Seve. There's no doubt about that. But he has frailties and failings, McIlroy, under the pressure. And they've been laid bare most obviously in the majors, and so that's why people watch that and they might be golfers who go, well, I know what it's like to have a birdie in one hole and then just hit it out of bounds 3 times in the next hole, but I also know what it's like in life to fail and to hopefully come back.
And it's that, I think, that he's a human, and we see his emotions writ large. And actually, the impressive thing I thought yesterday was how contained he was with his emotions when things weren't going well. But that smile and dropping to his haunches on 7 when he got that, and that might be the shot of the day. I don't know what your favourite was, Andrew, but that emotion that came out was the first time, because after those first 2 holes, when he apparently capitulated, I think there was a fear, wasn't there, that here we go. I think Kelly's comment was the curse of Rory on our podcast WhatsApp group, and you thought, here we go again.
Yeah, absolutely. You thought that because of what we've seen over the last 11 years since his last major, because of all the, when he burst on the scene, and there was that very early Masters in 2011 where he led by 4 going into the final round and shot 80 and blew it out. But you thought, okay, well, he'll come back, because then after that, he went on and he won the US Open, he won the USPGA, he won the USPGA again, he won the Open of Hoylake, and you thought, right, here he goes, this is just going to continue, and he's going to get, if not close to Jack Nicklaus, he's 18, he's going to get close to Tiger Woods, who at the time was on 14. So you thought that he would just carry on winning at that sort of pace. Now, firstly, golf doesn't work that way, but secondly, the longer it went on, the more he felt the pressure, and it just grew and grew and grew on a couple of technical flaws, which were always there, even in a player who was as great as McIlroy. And so with that bearing down of the pressure, every year it got more and more, and it got into his head. And that's why this win was so impressive, because he was able to rid himself of that burden, that pressure eventually, and do it in a way that still took us all on an incredibly tortuous ride, where you did think, his third shot into the 13th was a shot that, and I'm a modest golfer, and but 9 times out of 10, yeah. Anyway, and his second shot into the 18th in regulation, 125 yards, stock gap wedge, simple as you like, blocks it into the bunker. That's pressure, that's golf, and you get invested in that. And so when he comes back in the playoff and bounces back from that, that's anybody. You don't have to know golf to know that this is just dramatic sport.
And the form that pressure took over the years building up to this victory was that he thought that he wondered if it would ever be his time to win the Masters, to get another major even. Was there a sense in the golf world that it might not happen for him?
Yeah, I mean, I said on our deeply popular podcast, the Chipping Forecast, I said this week, before the Masters, I said, because everyone has said, oh, he'll win more majors and he'll win the Masters, he will. Some Tiger Woods said, oh, don't worry, he'll win the Masters at some point. But I said, will he? Because of what I've seen in the last 10 years, because he's obviously the most physically talented player of a generation, but golf is a mental game, and in the majors his mentality has failed him. So all I was saying was that there wasn't a certainty, there wasn't the surety that other people seemed to have that he was going to win the Masters. I'm so delighted that he has in the end, but it was never a guaranteed thing. But I think now he will. I think now he'll win more.
Can we talk a little bit about his origins? And I've heard so many brilliant voices coming out of Northern Ireland and Ireland today, and what it means to them and his community in Hollywood and wider into the kind of Portrush and all those famous iconic golfing kind of moments that we've seen come from the Emerald Isle, that he personifies so much, doesn't he, for them? And he's just a product of that brilliant community, and how he's, I heard a great quote today that, he is the product of loads of other people, not just his parents, but, people who've contributed in terms of coaching or looking after him while his parents were doing extra jobs to raise the money. And just put into context all of that for us.
So many different things, because firstly, golf is sometimes seen as this privileged sport. It's never been that where I come from, and it certainly isn't in Northern Ireland, and for most of the people in the UK it's not like that. But he's from quite a modest background, and Jerry and Rosie, his father and mother, worked very, very hard to make sure that he had opportunities, and they are great parents. They incidentally were not at the Masters, and Jerry travels everywhere with them.
Why was that? I never got to the kind of bottom of this.
I think they wanted to do something different, and also they're getting a little bit older, but I think they wanted to just leave him to it, because every year he's tried something different at the Masters to give a different feel. And then once he started well, I think they were considering, should we go over there and watch him, but decided no, that's a jinx, we'll stay here. And I think he's going back there next week to see them, saying that he was looking forward to it so much. Yeah. But he's from a very, very, very lovely family. And as you mentioned, so many different people in a community, which is, and Northern Ireland is still, a very, very community-based place. And I've got lots of relatives in Northern Ireland, and, family and friends and communities, it still means a huge amount. And for one of their own, because it is one of their own to have done so well, they're so fiercely proud of that. And he is still one of their own, because he'll come back and he'll go to the club, and he's gifted back to the club and society. And they'll chat to him and he'll chat to them as if he were the 15-year-old Rory McIlroy who hadn't achieved the world, but he has now. And I think he's so very grounded that is why people really do love him as well. He's sort of the everyman. But Northern Ireland have had this success, relatively modern success in golf, and Darren Clarke and Graham McDowell and Rory McIlroy, and they're always proud that it's from this wee country. They say this wee country of ours isn't too bad, is it? But the final thing is that how unifying Rory McIlroy is in a country which has been deeply divided, or I say a country, an island, sadly, which has been politically deeply divided for a long time. But in rugby and in golf, you represent the country of Ireland. Now, that sometimes rubs people up the wrong way, but it's a very, very unifying thing. And they're very proud to say that he's from the island of Ireland as well. And everybody claims it, but why not? And it's a wonderful thing when you see him go back to. There'll be lots of footage when he goes back to Holywood next week, I think it is. And they'll be welcoming back just one of their own has done well.
It was when he was asked about his parents and about the reaction at home when he was in the butler's cabin, which is one of the most brilliantly bizarre places and one of the most brilliantly bizarre interviews in the whole of sport.
It always feels like it's about to go wrong,
yes.
doesn't it? It feels like it's about to drop off.
Like everybody's terrified.
You'll know what this is. You'll know what this is like because studios it's all a great illusion. But I've sat in that seat that Rory McIlroy was in yesterday to get his thing. I went in because we used to do a bit of work with Jim Nance, who's the great CBS commentator, wonderful voice, and he used to come over and do a bit of stuff for the BBC in the summer at the Open. And one year I sort of asked him, said, could I come in and just... Well, he said, sure. I mean, he didn't say it like that because that didn't sound anything like him.
Was that Michael Johnson?
He had a cold at the time. I went, sure. It was Michael Johnson, wasn't it? No, and so then I sat there. And of course, it's an active cabin. It's a place where people will come and stay during the rest of the year when they're, if they're guests of Augusta. But it's a TV studio effectively for the week, and it is a bizarre place, and it's a rather bizarre ceremony, but it is a tradition now. And I was thinking about that, Kelly, when he was, sitting there in that seat. For any player who's dreamed of winning the Masters in golf, to be in that position and to have this, again, rather strange garment on, but this precious and also desired garment put on you must be, a very, very odd experience. But you're touching on the emotion that he showed there. And again, he does wear that emotion close to the surface. But when you're talking about your parents and how he can't wait to go back and see them, and then when he's talking to directly almost addressing his daughter Poppy at the other ceremony they have outside after the Butler Cabin ceremony and saying, I just want you to know, Poppy, that this shows, if you get knocked down or you just keep trying and you can do whatever you want to. Again, sort of paraphrasing slightly there, but do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. That's, he's a very, very powerful speaker as well, McIlroy.
Yeah, he is. And I mean, we haven't got time to go into it now, but the role he's had to assume with the whole live situation and becoming almost the voice of the other side and, the person that was potentially going to have to be sent in for negotiations and then having to take political positions, all of that as well shows you what a clever guy he is and how he's trusted by his peers.
Yeah, and his honesty would, again, grate with some people because he'll say things that people don't agree with. And sometimes he'll speak because that's his opinion at the time, but then he might do further investigation into it, or he might just change his opinion and he'll say, actually, do you know what, I got that a bit wrong. And, he's had to be a little bit more flexible on the whole live situation as it's progressed and developed. But yeah, he became a spokesperson for the PGA Tour, which in the end he felt a little bit uncomfortable doing and being. But when you are effectively the poster boy for, I don't want to say traditional golf, but the traditional sort of setup in terms of the PGA Tour, he lives over in Florida now. He is very much American based and plays on the PGA Tour, even though he's fiercely Irish and fiercely European. I think that put him in so many people have been in awkward positions in golf of late that have not necessarily been of their own making. Men's professional golf for the last 2 years has been horrible at times.
This feels like such a positive moment within all of that.
And so needed, a real salve to all of that, because it's been ugly. It's been about money. How much money can I get? Are you getting this much money? I can get more money than that. I can give you more money. It's awful, and it's the wrong image for golf. Because the last thing that anybody mentions when Rory McIlroy wins yesterday is what the prize money was. Most people know what the prize money is, and it's huge, but they don't care about that. No. Rory McIlroy would take nothing for winning that. He would pay to to win that. I'm not suggesting he did pay for that victory in any way.
That's the clip.
No, conspiracy.
And just a very quick one as well on Justin Rose and his role in this moment of history, because on any other, Sunday, whoever that other person was, we'd all be going, "Wow, Justin Rose!" I think Justin Rose, I always loved when he embraced the Olympics. I think that's when my love for him went up even more, because never was anybody who was doing it just for love. That's the thing about the Olympics with the golf, isn't it? That you're doing it just for love. You kind of get this guy's humanity and how brilliant he is. But obviously, yesterday he had to play second fiddle in the moment of history.
He said in that hug with Rory McIlroy at the end, they had a long word, and he said afterwards, didn't he, that I'm glad that I'm here at a moment of history when you joined the Grand Slam club, but I wanted to be the bad guy because he wanted to win. Of course he did, and Justin Rose deserves another major. The 2013 US Open, he's been so close in so many others, not least the Masters a couple of times, and now a playoff to Sergio Garcia in 2017 and a playoff now here. He's the ultimate professional, Justin Rose. He's a very, very nice guy, and Rory McIlroy, if he hadn't been involved, would have been cheering Justin Rose from the sidelines. A strange dynamic in the playoff to have Justin Rose, who would have been willing McIlroy to join the Grand Slam club, but thinking, I've got to do this, try this for myself. He didn't just want to be the guy who was there cheering on Rory McIlroy. So it was strange, and he deserves a huge amount of credit.
Well, Shane Lowry kind of
7 shots behind. Well, they were in the same.
But Shane Lowry kind of lost it a bit, didn't he, in his interview? Because Shane Lowry was a bit like, well, yeah, he's my friend, but hang on a second, I want to win this.
Yeah.
Well, the Shane Lowry thing's exactly, because Shane Lowry and Justin Rose both started in 5 under, outside chances in the final day to charge and get in there. That actually happened for Justin Rose. 10 birdies, extraordinary. For Shane Lowry, it didn't. He went into reverse with an 81. Still, Shane Lowry, though, was waiting, just beaming to wrap McIlroy up in a hug, because he's his friend and has been since boyhood golf. But you're right. They wanted Rory McIlroy to succeed, but they're still thinking, I want this for myself. Golfers are selfish individuals. You do want it for yourself, of course you do, but they'll be trying to beat him at the next few majors.
Andrew, one last one on the future for Rory, who said, you can't win all 4 majors in a year if you haven't won the first one. Could he?
I think that's a big, big stretch. It is for anybody. Tiger Woods came close when he won 3 in one year and actually won the first the next year, so held them all at the same time. And Ben Hogan won all the 3 that he actually played in 1953. You couldn't play the Open and the USPGA at the same time, and then but he won the first 3. I don't think so, because I think he might well win the USPGA because he loves that course. US Open at Oakmont, he doesn't know quite so well, but I think that the tricky one for him.
Sorry, where's the USPGA?
The USPGA is at Quail Hollow, which is a course that they hold they have held a PGA there before, and they hold a regular PGA Tour event there, which he's won a few times. So, but at Portrush is the sticking point, because he'll be relieved of a lot of pressure because he's won this and he's joined the Grand Slam club. But the pressure of competing in front of all your home fans, I've said it before, that all that love can be overpowering as well, and wanting to do it for them as much as they want it for you. And links golf is still not quite the game that he has mastered to the extent of the other ones. He's getting much better at it, but look at me with my faint praise for Rory McIlroy, the greatest golfer of all time. But I would love to see him do it. Yeah,
crack on! He should be on the practice. He should be on the practice ground today. So he should be doing down at the range, Rory.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure. Yeah, he probably is, just for fun, with little Poppy, who's clearly got some putting there in her bag, hasn't she? As we saw on the family round the day before. Well, look, Cotter, I think never mind his mum and dad not being there as perhaps being the omen and the jinx. Maybe it was you not being there. Maybe this is all along what he needed was you to stay at home.
In the first round, Rory did look a bit sad, and I thought he is missing. But he got over that, and I was so jealous of not being there, but I was so pleased. And we're all hard-bitten sports broadcasters, stroke journalists, but who get a bit. We're objective about sport and we become quite detached from it, but you get invested in certain stories and certain events that suddenly remind you that you're a fan as much as you are a broadcaster, not necessarily of one particular person, but just of great sport, and that was great sport.
Well, apart from anything else for Rory McIlroy, it was a huge psychological feat. And we are joined now by golf psychologist Jon Adler. Jon, thank you so much for speaking to us about this. And it's such a lovely story because it feels as though this is about Rory beating himself as much as anything else.
Yes, I think he actually referenced that, didn't he? He said he played the game yesterday was against himself. And I think that's what happens when you're playing sport, certainly golf, where you have so much time to think. There's the outer game going on all the time, where the obstacles are the slopes in the greens and the water and what have you. But there's an inner game that's being played all the time. And he's got better at the inner game.
Yeah, he's been working with Bob Rotella, who is a psychologist and sports psychologist. And apparently he's got over 75 clients, men and women's players, who've won... Sorry. He's working with Bob Rotella, whose clients have won over 75 men and women's majors between them. So obviously Rotella has got something when it comes to giving golfers a toolkit. What is it? What is it that they're using when they're out there? Because it's all right having a conversation with somebody days in advance, isn't it? But it's when they're on the course, they've got to be able to apply the things you tell them.
Well, if there was a magic formula, Gabby, I'd bottle it, I'd patent it, and I'd sell it, and I'd be a very rich man. Unfortunately, there's not really. You can do lots of things. Don't forget that Rory worked with Dr. Bob Rotella last year at the Masters, and things didn't go so well. So it's, I think last time I was on, we were speaking after Rory's capitulation at the US Open.
Yeah, last summer.
And I remember Nick Faldo saying, these scars are going to be hard to overcome. I don't think he's, I worry for him. I don't think he's going to overcome these scars. And my thoughts were the opposite. Because of Rory's character, was that he will learn from the experience, and the scars in the end, even though they're so painful to deal with at the time, they're what you learn from the most. It's very similar in life. The tough times, even though they're awful to go through, they sort of mold you like a lump of coal with all the pressure and all the stresses over the years turns into the diamond. I think Rory's found his diamond moment yesterday. Good for him.
He absolutely did. And it's taken so long to create that diamond moment for Rory McIlroy. And over that whole time, 11 years without a major, waiting for that fourth and final piece of the jigsaw for the Grand Slam. The pressure, as you say, was building over all that time. When you're working with a golfer, are you looking to minimize that pressure, or are you looking to give them tools to deal with the pressure, to be able to embrace it in a way?
Yes, well, I think you're right there. Trying to fight the pressure or trying to fight anxiety, Rory said he was anxious from the first tee, even before the first tee, he felt anxious. So the more you go into that pressure cooker situation, the more comfortable you can feel with it, even though it's uncomfortable. It's getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable that sort of elevates these players to become greats. What can you do when you're feeling really anxious, when you're stood over the ball and your mind is going 10 to the dozen with all sorts of interference from the mind? And I don't know if you noticed yesterday, a lot of players were stepping back from shots. You noticed they were over it and then they'd step back and reset. Because when you're stood over it and your mind's screaming out, that you're not lined up, your grip doesn't feel right, don't miss this. There was so much of it going on for the guys yesterday. That what you can do, the good thing they do is that they realize it and they step back and they sort of reset, but trying to keep that clarity of mind. What happens is the mind becomes unbalanced because the craving is so strong, because they want to do so well and they're frightened of messing up. Two sides of the same coin, craving and aversion. And the mind becomes so jumpy that you lose all your equanimity, and with it, your performance drops. So the idea would be is to do your best to stay in the moment. But Rory's referenced it already. It's so difficult to do, even with the best will and the best training in the world.
Because
sometimes it's hard.
John, golfers have got to stay in that state for such a long time compared to many other sports, haven't they? There'll be flow that state of flow will happen at various points in a round, and we saw that on Saturday when he just looked like he could do no wrong for so many holes. But at some point it's inevitable. No matter who you are, at what level of your career and how well things are going, there's going to be some point in that round where you're out of that state, and then you've got to get back in. And as you say, he said he was so nervous coming up to the first hole yesterday, and boy did he look it. I mean, he was practically shaking, wasn't he? And you see that capitulation in those first 2 holes. Perhaps a few years ago, it would have carried on that way. Something happened, though. Is it in a monologue? Is he addressing himself, using the voice of the person who's dealing with him? Whether it is Bob or somebody else who's talking to him. What do you advise people when they're in the middle of a round like that or a sporting occasion, and they have to regroup in front of the world?
Yeah, well, it's certainly the most difficult thing to do. I think what he did really well was he let go of the bad shots and the bad holes, and was quite stoic in the fact that he's been talking about it all week, this resilience that he's proved he's got. And I think Bob Rotella was drumming that into him, that you are resilient. You've come through all these difficult times. Why not now? I think the good thing about Rory is that he has that sort of growth mindset that, when he's been beaten and down, he learns from it and moves on. And I heard Nick Faldo saying he's got to forget the past. Well, how do you do that? I mean, I've got no idea how you forget the past. I think you have to accept it, learn what you can from it, and be optimistic going forward and say, well, yeah, all of these tough times will stand me in good stead. I'll do my best. I'll be kind to myself. I won't make it even harder for myself by getting down on myself. Because you're always doing your best, even when your best isn't great. And I think he also said that his caddy played a good part. I mean, he doesn't get a lot of credit, his caddy. And I think he said at the end of 18 holes, just before the playoff, they were walking back down to the playoff hole. Harry said to him, "Oh, well, pal," he said, "we'd have taken this on the first day. We'd have accepted a playoff." And Rory said, "That was it. That's all I needed to do was just a reset and say, okay, let's see if I can win this hole."
Magic words.
And he was the person that Rory turned to on the first hole of the 4th round, and just said, on the first hole of the 4th day, and just said, "I'm nervous. I need you to know that I'm nervous." And he kind of accepted that. And I think the contrast that you outlined there between how someone like Rory McIlroy would approach this and someone like Nick Faldo, a great golfer of his generation, would have approached this is really interesting, because the way that Nick Faldo would have talked to himself, which he gave us an insight into, was so much harsher and so much less gentle and less accepting than the way that Rory McIlroy would do it. I find that the two different approaches really interesting.
Yeah. I don't think there's a magic formula. As I said, you can do your best. You can have all the best laid plans. You can do your best to observe your breath and stay connected within your body and sort of grounded, so that you're not in your head too much. You can observe your thoughts and try not to attach to them. Ultimately, you've got to, I think, try not to let one bad shot affect the next shot you're going to play. It's really, really difficult because you've got that time to wait and think. But Rory, I mean, it was like watching Rocky or something like that, wasn't it? He got knocked down
against the ropes so many times.
Yes,
and then that shot, the audacious shot on the 7th, when he goes over the trees and he absolutely lands it perfectly. At that moment, you think this is somebody playing with pure instinct and not thinking. I mean, thinking clearly to which shot he's going to play and which club he's going to use and all of that. But just there was a naturalness to him there that you felt, okay, he's found that person, and that joy that he gets from playing golf. You always feel with Rory that in spite of everything we've talked about and the 11 years of pain, there's a joy there. He wants to be out there. Do you know what I mean? There are some sports people that you just wonder if they actually love the sport they do sometimes. I often get that feeling with certain tennis players.
People are often really good at, but they're very good at the sport without actually loving the sport. It's just a job.
Yeah, he's got that, as I said, this sort of growth mindset where he accepts that it's going to be difficult. To become a great champion, you have to endure quite a bit of pain, I think. Most of the champions will have had very disappointing losses and things. And he's the sort that will accept it and move on and learn from it. Whereas other people would say, as many golfers have, they just disappear. They think this is too harsh. I mean, look at the emotion that he let out, when he won. I mean, that was going to the bottom of the well in order to try and get what he wanted. And for some people, that's too much. And I think a lot of sort of commentators or people outside have so many opinions of Rory. I had a lot of people that I know were, oh, he's a choker, he's never going to do anything, all this. And to have all that opinion around you, everybody's got an opinion. I'm on here giving my opinion. Yeah. Everybody's giving an opinion about it. And he's got to somehow stay true to what he believes in and think, yeah, I'm optimistic. I think I can still do it.
What's interesting as well is the outside noise, as you call it there, the kind of, the wider world. Then there's the inner circle and what they mean to a sports person. And with Rory, we saw open displays of affection towards his daughter, talking about his daughter afterwards, talking about during the 4 days, going back and watching Disney films with her. And then you contrast with somebody like Tyson Fury, who told us that he didn't see his wife and kids for 6 weeks before his last fight because, for some reason that was going to distract him from being the ferocious fighter that he wanted to be. And there are all kinds of different approaches in that respect that he's not the first person to infer that he doesn't have sex, Tyson Fury, before he fights, which is supposed to be some build-up.
Are you going to ask Jon his professional opinion?
Yeah,
on that? Is that where this is going?
Should you be having sex the night before the 4th day of the Masters? No, and I found that really interesting, that insight into his personal life, actually, which seems to have created some serenity around him in these stressful days.
Yeah, well, when you go home when your kids are young, I remember when I used to come home and the kids were young, they don't care what you've shot, what score you've shot, or how much money you've got, or what's happening. They just, come and play with me. And it simplifies everything. It makes you realise that, if Rory had never won the Masters, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. It'd just been another story in Rory's remarkable career, So having that sort of balance and some sort of perspective on it all, I'm sure that's helped. Don't you think?
Oh, it looks from the outside like it's something he's embraced, rather than feeling, oh, I can't have those people near me. Actually, they're going to help me. And I think the contrast, we noticed this last night, didn't we, Kelly, between, well, over the 4 days, you couldn't help but notice, but when they were together yesterday, Bryson DeChambeau and Rory McIlroy are very different people. I think if you were to do psychometric tests on them, one of them clearly loves the show and loves high-fiving and giving everybody that kind of sense that this is theatre and I'm the main actor.
Draws from the crowd.
Yeah, and I am here to lap it up. And the other one, while he's not an introvert, it's less his thing, isn't it? And that contrast was so fascinating to watch the pair of them together.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Bryson's had too many scars, if you want to use the scar terminology.
He got a few nicks yesterday, didn't he? He got a few cuts yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah, he's got a bit of Savlon on there today. But yeah, I think, he's obviously trying to feed off the crowd, but then that's difficult then. I think I heard Rory didn't speak to him for the whole round. And I know, Gabby, you're a big fan of not saying much when you play golf, as I recall from our last conversation.
Well, what I'd said, Kelly, was that I'm not one of those people that can be chatting on my backswing, and I like to just. So when I play in charity golf days, the whole point is that you're supposed to chat to the people who've got you on your team on it. I just find it really hard, and as you know, I don't
one or
find
the
it
other.
hard.
You're fully focused.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And Rory, not only did he not talk to him yesterday,
you either want Gabby the golfer or Gabby the person. You don't get both.
No, on the same day. But they didn't even make eye contact, or Rory was avoiding eye contact, and he was pointedly looking down. I mean, the only time he'd look up was...
There's a bit of history between them as well, isn't there?
And obviously what happened last summer, and he talked in the interim period about how waiting for Bryson DeChambeau at the US Open really caused him a lot of anxiety, waiting for him to play his shots. And yesterday, he just was not going to be drawn into his psyche. He wasn't going to let himself somehow remove his state or change his state because of his opponent, and you could visibly see that.
I think it's something I often encourage golfers who I work with. If they get too involved, you're getting too involved in someone else. Imagine you're playing somebody and they're really nervous, so they just want to talk and get rid of some of their nervous energy by blabbing. And if you're the sort who doesn't really enjoy that, I encourage them to say before the round, you know what, I'd love to have a chat to you after the round, and we'll have a
See
cup
you
of
in
tea
4
or
hours.
Yeah.
yeah. But when I'm playing, I'm not saying too much. So there's nothing against you. It's just how I do it, and that gives you freedom then to just concentrate on the business, what you're about, and stay connected to what your intentions are for the round, and try and keep a little bit more present.
There was a suggestion in the studio from some of the guests there afterwards, and some great ex golfers who were saying this might be the opening of the floodgates for Rory McIlroy once again. We could see him start to win majors at a rate that he hasn't done since the beginning of his career. Do you think that it necessarily follows that because this pressure has been lifted, that because he's achieved what he set out to achieve, that because his dream has come true, that suddenly all the pressure is off? Or does he just set himself new challenges now? Because he's already talking about trying to win 4 in a year. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I this euphoria will be around for a while, and perhaps the next 1 or 2 majors he'll be freewheeling a bit more. So, maybe look out for it. But the mind always starts craving something else again. You've got, now he's got that, he'll start to crave and want something else and build something else up a bit more. So.
But nothing will get built up like this, will it? It can't, because this is a piece of history it's so rare to be one of 6 people through, the history of the sport to achieve a Grand Slam. And so whatever he sets his mind to now, whatever happens, he's done that. It's like, it doesn't matter. And so it does feel like that pressure lifted, that pressure gone, will release somebody who can win again. It just feels almost...
Not to put a downer on all of this, but Jon, in your experience of dealing with people who've had these great successes, is there a sense of it not all being downhill from here, but nothing will ever quite match this? Nothing will ever quite match this pinnacle. Is that how elite sports people are wired necessarily?
I think he'll look to set new challenges once he's enjoyed this moment. But I think you're right. I mean, this has been such a huge weight on his shoulders for so long. Nothing is ever going to feel quite as, relieving as that short putt going in yesterday. I think you could pretty much bet your house on that, because it's been building up for so many years. Will he freewheel from here on in? I think for a short while, but in my experience, the mind, once it's got one thing, it's like, okay, let's get a nice new car, and we get a new car. I want a bigger house, and I want a bigger, there's always the next thing that the mind is used to craving. That's what it does. It always wants what it hasn't.
That's how you keep being competitive, I suppose. And that, if we're looking at this anthropologically, is how we keep moving forwards and keep setting new goals. But obviously the rivalry with Bryson DeChambeau is going to go on, isn't it? And it's interesting that he's been through a few different eras, Rory, and he's still only 35 years old. Yeah. And this rivalry will fire up Bryson DeChambeau, won't it? This will make him really want to win that Masters against Rory next time, and make sure Rory doesn't pip him to another major. Do you think it's a genuine dislike, because they're so different as personalities? From what you saw yesterday, did you think it was Rory just being canny and using the right psychological framework to win it?
I think it was Rory doing what was best for Rory. I don't think it had much to do with Bryson. It was just like, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what's going to work best for me. If it would have worked better for Rory if he was sort of a Lee Trevino character and he wanted to chat, and I'm sure he would have done that. But I'm not sure about the rivalry. I guess that it's healthy. Bryson's a fantastic golfer, isn't he? And he certainly seems to connect with people with an audience. And it's great having all those different characters. There's no one way to.
Oh, absolutely. I think most people who follow golf in this country, if there've been no British or European golfers challenging, there's a real like for him, isn't there? A real admiration for him, and he's a bit different. He does things differently with his clubs and all of that stuff, which people find fascinating. I mean, the social media thing he did earlier last year, was it, when he was hitting the ball over his house, all of that. He's pushed the sport into areas that other people haven't been able to.
Even before his final round, he was out in the neighbourhood kind of putting with randoms.
Right.
He's clearly
he's a golfer of the social media age, isn't he, as well? He gets all of that. He's very important for the sport, clearly, and I suppose there will be sections of the media that maybe try and build more into this rivalry than there is, but clearly yesterday, Rory handled it brilliantly. So I think.
And let's not forget poor old Justin Rose. I love Justin Rose.
Yes.
Losing in the playoff again. He lost in the playoff before to Sergio, I think.
Yeah.
And a lovely chap, and fantastic golfer in the twilight of his years playing golf. What a great effort he put in as well.
Yeah, and to obviously have to be pleased, not have to be, but he clearly was pleased for Rory to achieve that, but also dealing with his own disappointment.
And at a much later stage in his career where it feels like there won't be as many opportunities.
Yeah.
The other question, Jon, that I've been dying to ask you, because we all went through the ringer watching that final round in particular yesterday.
Yeah.
When you're watching just for pleasure, just for the interest of it, we're watching thinking, oh God, I don't know if Rory's going to come back from this. I don't know if he's got it in his locker. Is this the curse of Rory? Is this, just his history coming back to haunt him? Are you using your knowledge to try and work out what's going to happen in the way that people who know about golf will be using their knowledge of his swing, or the knowledge of his short game, or their knowledge of his technique? Are you analysing it in that sense as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The whole way through. I mean, on the first hole, you could see the fear and the anxiety that he had, and you think, oh, this is going to be a long day for him. And then that sort of seemed to lift with that double bogey. So it seemed to shake it free, and then he was magnificent. You think, okay, maybe he's good. So there's a whole roller coaster of emotions, which is what he knows will happen. And I think all those years of experience has taught him what's going to happen. But yeah, from my point of view, when they're making putts, short putts, I'm not watching the ball rolling. I'm watching their reaction to their putt in the split second that they're putting. Where are they focusing on the stroke, or are they having a little peek out the side? And that will tell me a little bit about their anxiety and hitting a short putt a long way past. That can the closer you get to the hole, the harder it is to control. I think with a big swing, even when you're anxious, you can get some adrenaline out and you can leather into it. But when it comes to the small motor skills, the finer motor skills, then it's more difficult. The closer you get to the hole, the more the result counts, and that's the interesting part for me then, how they're holding out. Rory did well for a while, and then he missed a few. He had an opportunity to win it.
Do you know what I think? I think with hindsight, you're absolutely right, Kelly. We were all put through the ringer. Thank you, Rory. I think with hindsight, we wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Imagine if he'd cruised to a 6-stroke win and, had just... Because when DeChambeau capitulated, I thought, oh, is this good for Rory or bad? Because actually he's got somebody next to him now whose game is going down the sink. And is that going to detract from his positivity? And for a while, I think maybe that did. It caused a few problems for him. But actually, it was much more exciting having the drama.
And then you get that moment of release, don't you? When it literally looked like the lid came off on all of that emotion that's been not just 4 days in the making, but
a lifetime. This is what he set out
making.
when he was a kid. He said this is what he wanted to do, and there was such. And actually, and we were hearing yesterday. He wasn't the greatest young golfer of his generation as a young teen. There were other golfers who were beating him, but as a young man, he set this out as his goal and his aim in life, and it's taken him a long time, but he has got there. And I think his comments, as well as you pointed out to his daughter. Well, I think Andrew Cotter said about speaking to his daughter and saying, it is possible to come back from hard times and keep going and keep believing your dream is just a beautiful message for all of us humans, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's what connects. That's why we connect with Rory, because we've all probably made really bad errors when we didn't want to, made huge mistakes and felt terrible about it. But he's made them in the public eye, and he keeps bouncing back. And that's why I think most people were rooting for Rory, because we can relate to that, making mistakes, feeling stupid at times, and then, rooting for him and watching him come through was fantastic to watch.
I think we can cancel Sports Personality of the Year in terms of thinking there's anybody else who's going to win it this year. I shouldn't say that, should I? As one of the hosts, but I mean, I was thinking last night, what could anybody else do this year that is going to achieve that level of kind of admiration and sporting immortality? I mean,
what if I won the British Open? Would that count?
I suppose, yeah.
I'd vote for you.
I mean,
Off an 8
coming from
handicap.
where you've come from, I think we'd all be thrilled. I was thinking the Lionesses winning the Euros again. They've done it the first time. It doesn't feel quite as huge as they did.
And
it
also,
the
it's a
second time.
team sport.
It's-
So
team sports always.
who would you pick? And then they're all up against each other. in terms of...
So I suppose Emma Raducanu seeking redemption at Wimbledon, maybe. That could be. Interestingly, we were talking about the fact that Rory's parents had decided to do something different, and this is kind of your area, I guess, because it's superstition in a way, isn't it? Trying to change things. Well, it hasn't worked with the parents being there, so they're going to stay at home and watch from afar. And Emma Raducanu's family famously weren't in New York when she won the US Open because of
Probably
COVID.
because they didn't think she was going to win either. No, because she was.
Well,
an
no,
outsider,
her dad travelled everywhere with
Yeah.
her. He was an ever-present force, but because of COVID, he wasn't allowed to go. And she's never won anything since her family have been allowed to travel with her. So it's interesting, kind of those little things that people change, how they can just put something in their mind that actually that's a good idea. Now I'm never going to go and watch my son play golf again because he wins a Grand Slam when I'm not there.
For all those small things, I just wonder, John, if the biggest takeaway from Rory McIlroy's win in Augusta is resilience and the ability to recover.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on, Kelly. Learn from your mistakes and bounce back and keep going. I think that's what he said too, and it's a great message, especially in golf, because you lose more than you win in golf, and it's a really, really tough game. And if you can, accept that it's going to be tricky, expect the unexpected when you play golf, because it generally happens, and start to feel a bit more comfortable with being uncomfortable, then you can go on. Doesn't matter what's happened to you, have another go again and see what happens. Be optimistic about it.
John, thank you so much. Fascinating as always to chat, and I'm glad that we're chatting to you on this occasion with happier news to discuss and positivity. So we'll speak to you again soon. I'm delighted to say we can speak to Ciaran Lavery now, head golf pro at Holywood Golf Club, which is Rory's childhood club in Northern Ireland. I can't believe you're actually not still partying, Ciaran. I imagine the celebrations went deep into the night. Set the scene for us. Where were you watching and who were you with?
Yeah, so I opted out of the clubhouse scene last night. I found there was loads and loads of members here, so I decided I'd go home and watch it on my own. Even the wife went to bed early, wouldn't put up with me watching it.
Is that because of the nerves?
Yeah, it's a lot of that. There was a lot of pacing around the sitting room, and I suppose at times giving out, and other times jumping around, fist pumping like I was Tiger or Rory or something like that.
Do you know where Rory's parents watched the whole thing over the 4 days? Were they in the clubhouse? Were they at home?
No, I believe they were at home. Now we didn't see anybody here. His uncle played golf on Saturday along with his nephew, and they were in good spirits after Rory's Friday night low one. So that was really good. Like they were thrilled with that. And yeah, it was great. Like just the whole buzz about the club all weekend was amazing.
Because it's a really close-knit area, isn't it? And the family are very involved in the golf club.
Yeah, they are. Like so you have Rory's uncles and his cousins that play golf here, and like they're all really keen golfers and all like really involved in the club. And all the members have great time for them. Like they're full of crack. So
his dad famously had to work quite a few jobs, and there were a lot of sacrifices made when Rory was a child to get him, better coaching and play more golf and travel to tournaments. And didn't he work in the bar at the club at one point as part of his 100 hours a week he was working?
Yeah, he did. So that's how they say Rory's love came about. So Jerry would be in the bar, and you'd look out, and Rory would be down on the putting green practicing that little putt he held to win the Masters all them years ago. And eventually they say if you want it hard enough, it'll happen. So that's what happened for him.
What are you all doing to celebrate? I know there will definitely have been celebrations last night. What's the plan?
So we've received nothing yet of what's going to happen, but I suppose we're all living in hope that we're all going to get a wee go at trying on that green jacket at some stage over the next couple of weeks.
Do you know, Ciaran, there's a brilliant story about when Richard Burton gave Elizabeth Taylor the Taylor,
famous,
but what became
yeah.
the famous diamond. And he went back to his local working men's club in Wales, and she let all the women in the local working men's club try on this famous diamond, and they all got a go of this kind of, famous piece of jewellery. And that's what it's going to be like. Rory coming back to the golf club, and everybody is going to want to put the jacket.
Diamonds are quite famously robust, though. That jacket could get ripped quite easily, couldn't it, in the wrong hands?
They'll go to a dry cleaners. It'll be fine.
Or beer stained by the end of it. So you expect to see him, hopefully. He'll come down, will he?
Hopefully, that's what we're all sort of. No one knows at the minute where it's the chat amongst everybody is, when's he coming? I've got loads of mates that come out of the woodwork, and have all requested info on a homecoming. So there's been nothing I've been told. So I can't feed anything back to them, unfortunately.
We talked to Andrew Cotter, the golf commentator and podcast host, about just the importance of community in Holywood and beyond, around Northern Ireland and Ireland, and how it's been, I've heard today said that this is about the community, actually, because Rory wouldn't be the player he is without the help of so many people, whether it's people at the golf club, people helping his parents out to get him to where he is. Give us a flavour of that and what golf means there and what he now and has always meant to you guys.
Yeah, we're all extremely proud of him here. We were proud before he done that. He didn't have to do that to make us appreciate him more. But golf's such a close community in Ireland, so small, but the whole club is run off, it's basically volunteers. Our whole junior section is volunteers, usually parents of kids that put a bit of extra time and effort in and want to see all the kids doing well. So the whole coaching program we have here is done through a community in the golf club with those volunteers, where they're given their time to develop and nurture these kids' talents. And you're seeing the rewards of that with the likes of Rory, and then we've Tom McKibben as well has come through, and there's countless juniors here at the minute that I believe have the potential to do exactly what those two guys have done. It's endless.
That's incredible to think that there's that much talent and more to come. Do you think you'll get more kids coming in now as well off the back of that win, particularly because not just because he's won it, but because there's been so much attention on it as well?
Yeah, definitely. Even this morning already, I think we've had at minimum half a dozen inquiries about joining kids, and we've actually had our Easter kids camps that have started this morning, so there's loads of them running around the place trying to hold that putt that Rory held, and yeah, it's great. There's a great buzz, and we've the TV crews here, and I was waiting on you guys looking out the window, and there was juniors standing hitting putts on the 9th green, just trying to show off a little bit for the cameras. It's great.
And you are a similar age to Rory, so I imagine your paths would have crossed on the course. Did you play against each other much as kids?
We would have played in a few junior competitions. I never played with him, but played in sort of junior competitions at the same time as him and different things like that. And needless to say, we were nowhere near the same level.
He always stood out, and he always made his intentions clear, didn't he? Just how great he wanted to be and where he wants to go. And and often in small communities there can be an attitude, can't there? Well, don't get too big for yourself, don't get too, and he's gone on and he's achieved those things. But what seems clear from all the stuff I've been hearing today and before is the enormous pride, and there's no sense that he's ever forgotten his roots, and that he's a very grounded person, and one of the first places he wants to go is not a week in the Maldives or to chill out somewhere. It's to get back home and see all the people who have helped make him and create this whole moment for him right now.
Yeah, the golf club is full of countless stories about how down to earth Rory is and how generous he is with his time, giving junior clinics here on different days. I believe he was here last year for a day giving a junior clinic, and it's just nice to see it again. It comes back to that community aspect where he feels still part of the community and still the same as everybody else as the day when he was a kid here, still wants to give back and do as well as he can for the golf club. And it's a massive sense of pride for the club, to be able to say that that's our Rory,
Ciaran, thanks so much for talking to us today. We'll let you go because you've got training ahead of the homecoming. You don't want to go into that one cold.
Yeah, definitely not. And yeah, we're full of coaching this evening. So we've actually got junior coaching in this evening and a few teams and
Oh, I
different
was
things
just
like that.
thinking
So
about the
it's all
partying,
good
I'll be
here.
honest.
Developing Rory.
I think she meant this kind of training. I think,
Yeah.
a pint of the black stuff maybe,
Yeah.
just to celebrate tonight after coaching. Maybe there'll be a few of you.
We're all very well trained in that.
Have you got Guinness on draft there?
There is, yeah. There's I'm actually in the members bar here, and there's a few taps sitting waiting on me here. So
Oh, good. Okay.
yeah, I might not make it.
Enjoy, and it's great to hear the kids out for Easter being inspired and more talent, yet more talent to come from that corner of the world. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Sports Agents.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, guys.
The Sports Agents
with Gabby Logan and Mark Chapman.